Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. Well, President Joe Biden has officially become lame duck president, with President Donald Trump set to take office again in exactly 2 months to the day today, except with one issue. President Biden seems to be continuing to beat that World War III drum. Late last week, Joe Biden gave Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine permission to shoot long-range U.S.-made missiles into Russia. Of course, there's no better way to start World War III with Russia than to do just that. Well, Ukraine's Zelensky, of course, taking Joe Biden up on that offer this week, yesterday reportedly carrying out his first strike inside Russian territory, U.S.-made missiles were used. Russia, of course, is threatening nuclear retaliation against Ukraine for doing that. So what exactly is Joe Biden's messaging here? What does Joe Biden want to get out of this? Is he trying to start World War III before Donald Trump comes back into office? We hope Vladimir Putin will not react just yet and take it with a grain of salt, as I said the other day, because with President Trump back in office, we're going to go ahead and see peace in that region. These wars are going to be over. Zelensky obviously trying to keep this thing prolonged and get it to keep on going, because every day that goes by that this thing continues is another day that Zelensky could come to America and leave like a bandit with billions and billions of dollars being wasted over there. Think about it, folks. We're going to start a world war with Russia over Ukraine that has absolutely nothing to do with us. Yet we have Iran knocking at our back door. We have China who released the China virus on us, knocking at our back door. Yet we're going to go to World War III over a land dispute with Ukraine and Russia. Go figure that one, folks. But that's the situation that we've gotten ourselves into. Elections have consequences. 2020 certainly had its consequences, whether it be here at home with all the issues we've dealt with or overseas with these multiple wars we're seeing. Ukraine and Russia, the Gaza Strip between Hamas and Israel, Iran being the greatest state sponsor of terrorism in that region, continuing to do whatever the hell they want, because Barack Obama and the Biden regime gave them billions of dollars to do whatever they want with, in cash, of course. So there's that. Folks, Adam Schiff, deranged congressman, you guys all know him. He's now actually a senator. They gave him a promotion for his lies. Schiff can't seem to help himself. The Russia collusion. It may be years since 2016, but he's still running with it. Take a listen to Jake Tapper and Adam Schiff this week.
Obviously, he is bringing a group of people to disrupt. I mean, that is what Speaker Johnson said. And I'm wondering about how much anybody in Washington is being introspective at all about why there is this kind of opening for disruptors, if not necessarily these individuals. You were censured in the House last year for, in their view, holding positions of power during the Trump presidency as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And according to them, quote, abusing this trust by saying there was evidence of collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. And I wonder if you are feeling at all introspective at all about that was, according to the Mueller report and according to your Republican colleagues, an overstatement. And I wonder if you think in any way you help set the table for these disruptors.
First of all, it wasn't an overstatement. There is evidence of collusion. The Trump campaign manager was meeting with Russian intelligence and giving them internal polling data, just to give you one example. And the Mueller report sets all this out.
It does say, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities, which doesn't mean that he didn't, that there weren't meetings, but they didn't find evidence.
Mueller says that too. He says the fact that we didn't find proof beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean there wasn't evidence of conspiracy or coordination. So, but look, that's not what people were voting on. People were voting on, is this guy going to improve the economy? Is he going to address inflation? And we didn't persuade the American people that we had a better answer to that question, that we had a better program, agenda, plan. And more than that, I think we failed to persuade the American people that in the voters' point of view, hey, that party, that candidate understands people like me.
It's unbelievable to me that Adam Schiff is still giving a platform. Pencil neck Adam Schiff, watermelon head Adam Schiff is still given a platform. And it's funny to see Jake Tapper over there try to play Mr. Cute Guy CNN's audience has dropped 34% since election day. And it's a growing trend. The voters have tuned out CNN. It's been nothing but lies and deceit. And apparently they're set to start doing some major layoffs. Hopefully Tapper will be one of them. They need to clean that place up and get it back together and bring in some talent, people who tell the truth. Because Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper and Caitlin Collins, they're really not getting the job done. And they're doing a great disservice to America by continuing to lie and to give Adam Schiff a platform. There was no Russia collusion. President Trump was never convicted of anything with Russia collusion. None of President Trump's advisors were connected with any sort of Russia collusion. But of course, because of congressional immunity, Adam Schiff can go out there and say whatever the hell he wants with no repercussions. He can't be sued for defamation. He can't be sued for slander. Go figure. Doesn't everyone want to be a congressman or a congresswoman? You get away and say whatever the heck you want. It must be nice. Well, President Trump, despite filling up most of his cabinet positions, we're still waiting on an FBI director. And Kash Patel is a name that's been recirculated many times. We're hearing now from a former FBI special agent named Daniel Bruner. He says that putting someone like Kash Patel in the position of director FBI is extremely, extremely dangerous because his resume isn't traditional and he will cause massive damage to the FBI. So imagine that. Kash Patel, who we all know to be a great American, doing absolutely great work when he was with President Trump the first time, is going to cause great damage to the FBI and the institution. Imagine that. Causing more damage to the FBI than they've caused to American people's lives. Our guest today has been a victim of the FBI. He's one of our weekly guests here on the Great America Show. He's the host of the Stone Zone podcast. You can catch him each and every night on Rumble. Great friend of mine, great friend of the show. And as I said, a victim of this corrupt FBI, the great Roger Stone. Roger, it's great to have you back with us on the Great America Show, our favorite weekly guest here. I want to get your take first on some of these cabinet appointments we've seen so far. Roger, the Marxist left is absolutely losing their damn minds. I want to get your take on it.
Well, I mean, so far so good. I think the president's picked excellent people. Once again, I think it's a demonstration. This is not going to be like last time, right, in which rhinos and other establishment types were allowed to infiltrate the administration with the goal to dilute or delay or derail the president's real agenda. In this case, his America First agenda. I think the standout appointment so far has to be Tulsi Gabbard. This is a woman who was a 4-term congresswoman as a Democrat, vice chairman of the Democrat Party, wrote a terrific book about why she left, because when she joined the party 25 years ago, it was the party of peace. Today, it's the party of war and censorship. She's a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. She served her country in combat in Kuwait and in Iraq. When I see these critics saying she's unqualified, and then I look for their service record, they don't have any.
Right.
She was on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and also the House Armed Services Committee, and she totally understands the epic corruption of our intelligence agencies. She's the ideal person to be Director of National Intelligence. I think that's a standout appointment. Very happy about the appointment of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think this demonstrates the new consensus in America, which we're having a giant realignment. Everybody who has common sense, everybody committed to peace, everybody committed to prosperity, everybody committed to a fair judicial process, everybody committed to a healthier America, we're getting under one banner. It is the banner of Donald Trump. And those committed to endless foreign war and the war machine and a corporate America, which will sell us poison food if it makes them a profit, they are getting under the banner of the National Democrat Party. It's a realignment like we saw in this country in 1932 under Franklin Roosevelt. Right. Prior to that, African Americans in this country, both in the North and the South, voted for Republicans because of the Republican role in the emancipation of the slaves. But because of Herbert Hoover's anemic response to the Great Depression, Roosevelt was able to forge a new coalition that allowed the Democrats to stay in power from 1932 to 1952. Richard Nixon formed a new coalition where he brought blue-collar ethnic Catholics in the Mideast and the Midwest and the Northeast into our coalition, along with white Southern conservatives, to forge a new coalition that ultimately goes on to elect the great Ronald Reagan. So we have a realignment going on in America today. Robert Kennedy, I think, exemplifies that realignment. Mike Waltz as a national security advisor. This guy's a war hero with an enviable record. He's a great Floridian. I think that's another great pick by the president. So look, we're waiting with bated breath to find out who the FBI director is going to be. The FBI, I can tell you, 29 of them showed up at my home at 6 o'clock in the morning, when they could have just called and said, we're going to indict you on fraudulent fabricated charges of lying about Russian collusion that never actually happened. But instead, they had to stage a raid on my home and tip off CNN, petrify my wife, who still suffers from PTSD from the entire experience, and make a national scene out of it. I'd like to know, maybe when we get a new FBI director, who approved this raid? I have no prior criminal record. I don't own a handgun. I didn't have a passport, so I wasn't a flight risk. So why did I have to be taken down in that manner? Lindsey Graham, who's great at firing off letters to get a headline, but
Lady G,
not so good at getting results, he got a big headline out of demanding to know who approved the raid on my home, but there was never any answer. I'd like to know that, frankly.
Yeah.
So that is a key job. Yes, I'm just going to say my own personal opinion. I think Kash Patel would be great in that job. He knows where the bodies are buried. He knows where the corruption is. He knows how to root that corruption out and reform that agency. And then, of course, there's the Secretary of the Treasury. I'm really very impressed with Scott Bessent. He's a strong supporter of gold. He's got some very interesting ideas about how he can help President Trump bring down our deficit, how to bring down our debt, I should say. He's an outside the box thinker. He's a supply sider who understands the importance of tax reduction and regulatory reform. He did work for George Soros 15 years ago on the business side before Soros was even political, but that didn't reflect Scott Bessent's views. So look, I'm hoping for some more great appointments, but whoever the president appoints, of course, will have my strong support. I don't have to tell you this, John. The permanent political establishment in Washington, they're going out of their minds. When they say Kash Patel would do massive damage to the FBI, how could the FBI's reputation be any more damaged than it is? Right. When you call people who show up at school board meetings because they're concerned about the curriculum being taught to their kids being radical, domestic terrorists, when you say Catholics who want to attend the Latin Mass are domestic terrorists, when you spy on a presidential candidate of the Republican Party, when you conduct illegal surveillance of them, how could the reputation of the FBI be any worse?
I'd love to see, Roger, a current public opinion poll on the FBI, because historically Congress usually polls among the lowest. The congressional leaders usually poll among the lowest, but I'd love to see an FBI public opinion poll versus Congress, because I think some Americans would be very surprised. You said a lot of stuff there, and there's so much for us to unpackage. You'd mentioned CNN showing up your house. CNN, we're going to get into this, but CNN's audience has dropped 34%, Roger, since Election Day, and it was already very, very bad. First, before we get into the media and all their deception, I want to bring up something that I think is very important. So looking forward to 2026, I think at worst, Republicans maybe lose the House by a few seats if they don't keep their good messaging going. I think they hold the Senate, no issues. There's no issues there. So President Trump will have one body. But if they keep their message on point and President Trump gets through what he wants to get through without Mike Johnson standing in the damn way, I think they have no problem holding the House in 2026. Now, that's besides the point. The issue I see coming now is the Senate and some of these damn rhinos in the Senate who are already trying to derail President Trump. So I want to go through a list of some folks who voted for Rick Scott. These are the only folks who voted for Rick Scott in that election with John Thune, John Cornyn. These are the folks who voted for Rick Scott. So these are people who voted for America First. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Ted Cruz, Bill Hagerty, Ron Johnson, Mike Lee, Cynthia Loomis, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, Eric Schmidt, Rick Scott, of course, Cindy Hyde-Smith, Tommy Tuberville, and J.D. Vance. I saw on Twitter Senator Katie Britt from Alabama was going out there saying she voted for him as well, but turns out she was called out on the fake news on that. The Hill is reporting, Roger, that these 9 senators are most likely to obstruct Trump's cabinet appointments. Lisa Murkowski, Joni Ernst, Todd Young, Mitch McConnell, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, John Cornyn, and John Curtis of Utah. Now, these are rhinos. We've seen in the president's first term, we saw these people go along to get along with the Democrats. Now, here comes the issue, Roger. 2026. I want to go through a list of some of these rhinos who are up for re-election. Dan Sullivan out in Alaska, Tom Cotton in Arkansas, Jim Risch in Idaho, Joni Ernst, Iowa, Roger Marshall, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Steve Daines, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Senator Lady G, Lindsey Graham, Mike Rounds, John Cornyn, Shelley Moore Capito. So these folks are all up for re-election, Roger. It's up to you and I. It's up to these folks who listen to this show to go out in their states and do everything they can to get a primary against these folks. We can't afford to keep having this happen, Roger. What is your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I strongly supported Rick Scott, my own senator from Florida. I think he would have been great as the new Senate Majority Leader. He's a Trump loyalist committed to the America First agenda. Now, as you know, this decision was made by the Republican caucus. Yep. And unfortunately, Rick Scott found out the difference between a caucus and a cactus. You see, a cactus, all the pricks are on the outside. I would also point out that in my 45 years in American politics, generally speaking, support is not transferable. But there's only one exception to that rule I've ever seen, and that is the endorsement of Donald Trump packs a real punch with voters. And therefore, Republicans, senators, or congressmen for that matter, who want to stand in the way of his agenda should recognize that they will be held accountable in the democratic process by having to run primary contests and be challenged. Right. Now, some of the people on that list are not even Republicans. I mean, for example, the senator from Alaska is only there because Alaska has this demented ranked choice voting, in which the majority of voters are not allowed to select the senator. Lisa Murkowski, who inherited the seat from her father. But if you had an up and down vote where you needed 50% of the vote to win, she wouldn't even be there. I think, first of all, politics is a business in which a day is a lifetime. So our sitting here talking about what will happen in 2 years, really kind of stupid because we don't know what's going to happen in the 2 years.
No, of course.
If Donald Trump does what I think he will do and begin to usher in a golden age of peace and prosperity and security and justice, well, then we're going to carry both houses easily. And I think you'll find that those Republicans who stood in the way of that agenda are going to have problems in inner party contests. But it's really too early to say. I'd be concerned, though, because one thing Trump has demonstrated is he is a maverick. He will endorse the non-favorite. He will go out and campaign for them. And those who don't get on board, those who aren't in step with the new Republican Party, the party of working people, the party of the middle class, the party of putting America first, the party of peace, the party of free speech, well, I think they're not going to be long for leadership positions in this party.
Yeah, and I think folks like you and I, Roger, and the great Lou Dobbs, the late Lou Dobbs, who have held these people accountable. There needs to be more of us to come out here and hold their feet to the fire because they keep getting away with it, Roger. And people's excuses, it's too expensive to primary somebody. They already have too much support. That's total BS. What the hell was that guy's name? Eric Cantor. He was one of the first to be thrown the hell out of his seat some years ago before President Trump came into office. Primaried. He was, I think, the third or fourth most powerful person in Washington, D.C. Primaried, lost his seat. We need to see more of that because it's healthy in the Republican Party. It's healthy in any party for people to not get complacent and think that they're going to go along to get along and they're going to keep getting away with this stuff. We saw a lot of them leave after President Trump decided he was going to run for re-election, run for cover. We need to get the rest of them the hell out of there. We're going to take a quick break. We're talking with the great Roger Stone. We're coming right back. We got an update on President Trump's New York case and Judge Juan Merchan. Coming right back with Roger Stone. Stay with us.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We're back, folks. We're talking with the great Roger Stone. And for all you folks who just saw that Mike Lindell commercial, if you guys don't want to go to MyPillow.com, you can make an order, place an order, 800-969-3077, 800-969-3077, and you'll get those same great discounts there on MyPillow products. Roger, before we went to break, I said we had an update for the audience on that New York case against President Donald Trump. Judge Juan Merchant on Tuesday declining to throw out that case against President Trump, as we heard he might do. Instead, he's going to sentence President Trump on November 26th. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure I fully understand the implications of it. But this is the act of a vengeful, corrupt judge. Now, Judge Merchant should have disqualified himself. As you know, his daughter, a Democrat political consultant, made hundreds of thousands of dollars on the trial, using the trial in her fundraising pitches. That alone should have required the judge to disqualify himself. Ultimately, I suspect, since Trump is appealing that verdict, and the case will ultimately be thrown out because of the corruption of Judge Merchant, I'm hoping that one of the higher courts will step in and say that any sentencing that he gives, a sentence, must be stayed. But in the system, I do know this: you can't appeal until you're sentenced. Right. So once he is sentenced, the president will file an appeal, and we'll see. I think they'd have a hard time incarcerating Trump. I'm not sure the Secret Service would. I'm not sure how they would feel that. He's not a presidential candidate. Now he's the president-elect. So this has to be watched very carefully. For those who are celebrating, and I was thinking about this because I was in the studio from which Lou used to do his show, and I was thinking, wow, our election night, I would say about 1 a.m. really, the morning after. Somewhere I said, Lou Dobbs is up in heaven looking down, and he's smiling very broadly. But we should not be complacent, because Satan never stops. And these evil actors for whom democracy means nothing, the people who always accuse us of doing and saying the exact thing that they themselves are doing, they're not going to give up in their efforts to try to destroy this nation and destroy our liberties. So it was interesting. I saw Adam Schiff the other day on CNN, and he said, no, there was evidence of Russian collusion. We know that Trump's campaign manager was sharing polling information with a Russian intelligence asset. Stop, Adam. Let's get this straight. There was no proprietary Trump polling. The Trump campaign hadn't yet polled. So if Paul Manafort, the campaign manager, shared polling with Konstantin Kilimnik, it would have been public information. And Konstantin Kilimnik, the man you call a Russian asset, you and John Brennan both know he's a U.S. intelligence asset. You lose, Adam. Stop recycling the same lies. He lies about me. He lies about this. You can always tell when Adam Schiff is lying. You know how? His lips are moving. So I say to you, if it's Schiff, flush it.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. You know what the problem is, Roger? If they got rid of this congressional immunity these people have to say whatever the hell they want to say in Congress and not be held accountable for it, it's sort of like vaccine makers. You get a vaccine, you can't sue if you die from the vaccine. You can't sue if your child gets autism from the vaccine. These folks in Congress, it's the same thing. They go out there, they say whatever the hell they want. They've defamed you. They've defamed Donald Trump. They've defamed a lot of people who have been in the Trump orbit, and they get away with it. I almost want to go be a congressman just so I can go talk shit all day. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's sadly true. So, for example, Hakeem Jeffries, I still have his tweet, says that I traded a pardon from Donald Trump in return for my silence about my knowledge of Trump's crimes. Well, Trump didn't engage in any crimes. That's defamatory. But little Hakeem cannot be sued because he's a member of Congress. So I say this: if you really believe that, waive your congressional immunity and let's settle it in court. But you won't do that because you're a coward and a liar.
Yeah, and they continue to get away with it. You look at Liz Cheney, Roger. She's been missing since the election. She was out here running around.
She's got, I think, a much larger question. We now know several things. First of all, she suborned perjury by coaching a witness before the January 6th committee. Secondarily, she lied about both General Flynn and I. She claimed that President Trump told his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, to call Stone and Flynn on the evening of January 5th to find out what would happen on the 6th. That's a lie. Phone records prove it's a lie. Testimony proves it's a lie. It's a lie. That's perjury. Now she coached that perjury. Liz Cheney coached that perjury. Cassidy Hutchinson perjured herself before the House. So wait a minute. That's what they accused me of. She has to be charged. If we're going to have anything other than a two-tier justice system, right, Cassidy Hutchinson needs to be charged. Right. The difference was I did make misstatements before the House. They were immaterial. They were irrelevant. They didn't hide any underlying crime because there was no Russian collusion to hide. There was also no WikiLeaks collaboration. And they over at CNN, and by the way, I don't get my news from CNN for the same reason I don't eat out of the toilet. I mean, MSNBC's Ari Melber, he showed The Beat Off, or whatever he calls it. 26,000 people are watching it. 26,000 people. I have a show on Rumble. On my worst day, there's more people watching me than this midget. This is an absurdity. These distortions by these fake news media outlets. One thing I was glad to see is that the new chairman of the FCC, a gentleman named Carr, realizes that CBS and NBC and ABC, who he does have regulatory authority over them, they're going to be held responsible for this. The owners of these stations need to be held responsible. I'm not suggesting that they should be supportive of Donald Trump. I'm not suggesting that they should be pro-Republican. What I'm suggesting is they should neutrally report the news and the facts, not an entire confection of lies and hate and disinformation.
Yeah, Roger, the other thing that blows my mind too, and Elon Musk has spoken out about this multiple times, why the hell is the government funding NPR? We pay for NPR. It's a state-run organization, sort of like you'd see in Russia or China, and all they do is push propaganda and they push lies. The same shit you see out of China.
Well, look, I hope in this government efficiency study that the president has insisted on, where Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and more importantly than either one, Congressman Ron Paul, will be working to identify waste in government. And the single greatest place they can start is right there. We should shut that down. We should fire all those people. The government does not belong in the information business unless it's like, Voice of America, where you are broadcasting the truth to people who are enslaved totalitarian nations. So I hope they shut PBS down as soon as possible and fire all of those people.
Roger, speaking of the media, these guys are hurting very bad. You mentioned show numbers. Yours and I's show alone is doing more viewers than these folks are getting in their demographic numbers. Demographic numbers, for everyone watching, is how you sell advertising. You go to an advertiser and you say, I have X amount of viewers in the 25 to 54 demographic, and that's how they get paid on. Fox News, for example, does on a good day 500,000-600,000 people in their demographic. Now the shows will do millions, but the demographic will say 400,000 to 600,000. Folks on MSNBC and CNN, Roger, are doing 20, 30, 40, 50,000. We're killing them with a frigging podcast, Roger. This cost us very minimal money to run, very efficiently run. You and I are both working out of home studios. We don't go anywhere. We don't have anyone telling us what to do, telling us what to say. We're allowed to come out here and say whatever we want within reason, just keeping to the truth. These are multi-million-dollar organizations, Roger, that are failing to pull numbers. MSNBC audience has plunged 54%. CNN's audience 34% since Election Day. News publications like the Gateway Pundit, where I get most of my news from, I read it every single morning, is up 20% since Election Day, 3.4 million page visits per day. Roger, I think this is a great awakening that people have opened their eyes and are tired of seeing the same nonsense, the same BS, day in and day out from even Fox News, Roger. I'll turn on Fox News every now and then, my former employer, and it's the same They got Neil Cavuto out there spreading the word for Joe Biden. I mean, even the more conservative hosts are just damn rhinos.
Yeah, but look, I think there is a great awakening. I think this really started in 2016. For the first time, people not only distrusted Congress and distrusted government, distrusted both major parties, but for the first time ever, they realized that the media wasn't telling them the truth. Right. They suffered even more after the COVID-19 pandemic. And now I think people are looking elsewhere, largely to the internet, for their news. This is why, of course, they're trying so desperately to shut Alex Jones and InfoWars down. Right. I've never seen anything like this. They're not just trying to shut it down and take his studios, cameras, his microphones. They're trying to take his image. No, you can't be Alex Jones anymore. You can't have the Alex Jones show. We're taking away your Twitter page. You can't be real Alex Jones before. That's never happened. Now, yes, I got together with a bunch of other people and we made a bid for the assets of InfoWars. I put in sweat equity because I have no money, but I was able to pull together a group of people who do have money. But to qualify the bid, you had to have hard dollars. You had to prove that you had the money to back up your specific bid. I think our bid was somewhere between $8 and $10 million. Well, the guys who own the Onion came along. They had a bid in which they pledged the future money that they're going to seize from Donald Trump to finance their bid. And the bankruptcy trustee awarded it to them. Now, fortunately, a federal judge said, wait a minute, this is not how it works. And that transaction was stalled. Elon Musk also filed a notice to appear before the bankruptcy court because he thinks that you can't take away Alex Jones's Twitter page. It has nothing to do with InfoWars. It's his personal page. Right. So they are still desperate to try to control the flow of information to Americans. And candidly, because of shows like this, shows like mine, the great folks at the Gateway Pundit, they're failing. They're failing miserably. And the proof of that was this last election, because if you listen to the Democrats, well, Donald Trump was Hitler. Yeah. And you and I must be Nazis because we support him. Yeah. That's a hell of an uplifting, inspiring final message for your campaign, isn't it?
And what does that make Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough for going to Mar-a-Lago on their hands and knees? By the time they got to Mar-a-Lago, their knees were bloody for begging for forgiveness from Donald Trump. I mean, it's so pathetic, Roger. I want to read a tweet that I don't know if this is confirmed. This is on Twitter. You can maybe help me. This morning, Morning Joe and Mika, who owe their careers to me, went on their show and claimed to have met with me. They made it sound like we had a summit. The truth is, Joe begged to meet with me after our big win, and when I finally agreed, he approached me like a scolded dog. He should consider himself lucky that I didn't have him thrown out of Mar-a-Lago. Micah was charming as usual. So I don't know if that's satirical or if that's actually from President Trump.
I think that's been identified as satire, but it is pretty funny. Look,
but it's so accurate.
Joe and Mika loved Donald Trump in 2017. Right. They loved laying by the pool at Mar-a-Lago, drinking Donald's booze, eating his food. Mika made a number of personnel recommendations of people who were actually hired by the Trump administration. But where it really started to go bad was when Joe found that Joe Scarborough, the former congressman, was not on the short list for vice president. I swear to God, this is not a joke.
What?
Yes, that's absolutely
I've never heard this before.
Well, you hear a lot of things from me you've never heard before. But that's true. Look, they're disgraceful. The great thing about their show is nobody's watching it. Nobody's watching it because all they do is churn out hate. You've seen this woman, Joy Reid?
Oh,
if her IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water her like a plant.
Right. I don't know where they find these people. I mean, Joe Scarborough, this is the same man who mysteriously had a woman disappear in, 2001 or something like that. And he expected to be on the short list when you have something like that going on in your life. I've never heard that before, but that's unbelievable. I mean, it's just so pathetic. But I think we're going to see now, Roger, these people continue to crawl back on their hands and knees and beg for forgiveness. And my favorite thing about this whole thing is that the Marxist Dems are more mad at Morning Joe and Mika than the Republicans are at Trump for meeting with these people. Now, if I were Trump, and I know this is what Lou would tell him, he would have told them to go to hell. There's no peace to be had, Roger. What they did to him, what they did to you, what they did to the rest of anyone who surrounded themselves with Donald Trump for the last 9 years is disgusting. So the fact that President Trump, and this is President Trump's biggest downfall, is his fact that he's way too nice and he's way too forgiving. Why give these people the time of day, Roger?
Look, Donald Trump is his own man. And remember this whole narrative at the end that Chris Matthews said reporters are going to be put up against a wall.
Yeah.
They're going to, AOC said that Trump is going to use the military to attack his political opponents. And people are just reporters, and anybody who opposes him politically is going to be arrested. This is all nonsensical. I think Donald Trump, I've known him 45 years. The truth is he gives people a second chance all the time. He can sometimes be too nice a guy.
Yeah.
But I think he does want to demonstrate that his number one goal is to bring America together and unite us.
Yeah.
And the best way you can do that is by having a boom economy. And the best way you can have a boom economy is by bringing down energy prices, drill, baby, drill, for gas and oil. Then you can afford to deal with the housing problem in America. You can afford to deal with better schools. Trump understands the key to lifting all boats is the tide of economic prosperity. We're about to have a golden age in this country.
Right.
And there's only one man who can lead it. Thank God the American people not only just chose him, but chose him overwhelmingly in the last election.
Well, if you listen to that idiot, you want to talk about IQ, double-digit IQ, Jessica Tarla. She was on Fox News yesterday, who they give way too much time to this idiot, saying, well, he didn't get over 50% of the vote, so he wasn't overwhelmingly chosen by the American people. It's nice to see that they like to change and move the goalpost when, they're the ones who are not.
But what they said was no Republican would ever win the popular vote again. Yeah. So, Jessica, shut up.
Nonetheless, Donald Trump.
The vote said it couldn't be done.
We're going to take one more quick break here. We're coming back with Roger Stone. In our final segment, I want to go over some things that are going on. There's a report that top CIA and national intel watchdogs are running for the hills before President Trump gets back to office. Pentagon has also failed their 7th straight audit in a row. I wonder where the hell the money's going and why these people are so terrified of Pete Hegseth. We're coming right back with the great Roger Stone. Stay with us.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
We're back. We're with the great Roger Stone. And for all those folks who want to go and order your MyPillow via phone, 800-969-3077. Same great deals over there. Roger, the Pentagon has now failed their 7th straight audit in a row, unable to account for $824 billion. But they're worried about Pete Hegseth, the Fox News host, decorated military veteran, coming into the Pentagon. As far as I'm concerned, Roger, they can put you or I in there, and it would probably be run better than it's being run under these career professionals.
Well, I mean, look, they've virtually destroyed our military through their DEI policies and their mandatory vaccination policies. Yep. Any military expert that I respect tells me that we're in no condition to fight a one theater war, never mind a two theater war. Yep. But they're worried about Pete Hegseth's tattoo. By the way, that tattoo's on the cover of my Bible. It's the exact same tattoo. So much to the idea that it's somehow connected to the Third Reich. That's more of their propaganda nonsense. We are at a point where our military strength is at an all-time low. We've got to rebuild our military. This, I think, will be a very high priority for the president.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And on the front of the military and these top three-letter agencies, Rogers, now a report that top CIA inspector generals for the CIA, for the ONDI, and for POCO are looking to run for the hills now, with Donald Trump coming back into office. And the way that these news outlets write these articles, Rogers, that Donald Trump's coming in, as you had said about Chris Matthews, he's going to put these people against the wall and stone them. But the interesting thing about it all is these people are looking to run for the hills for a reason, Roger. If you did nothing wrong, you don't run. You did nothing wrong. You stayed in your house. You waited for the FBI to come get you, and that was it. You dealt with the process. We get pulled over, Roger. We knew we were speeding. We sit there and we ask for forgiveness. These people are running to get out of Dodge like we don't have who they are, like we haven't paid them for the last however many years they're working there. We don't have their W-2s. If they did nothing wrong, Roger, what are they so worried about with Donald Trump?
An incredible story in the Washington Times by reporter Kerry Pickett reveals that the FBI Director James Comey, prior to Crossfire Hurricane, had a secret off-the-books operation to infiltrate Donald Trump's campaign with two very good-looking women to try to find any negative information they could. This makes Watergate look like small-time stuff, like small potatoes. There's a whistleblower who's come forward to this. He has documentation. This was kept from Inspector General Horowitz. Now, Horowitz's report missed a lot of things, but this is pretty serious. If I were James Comey, I'd be concerned because this guy engaged in treasonous illegal activity. And if a grand jury agrees with that, and I think they will, then he ought to be prosecuted. So that's why they're running for the hills. That's why they're all lawyering up. Justice is coming.
What's the process, would you say, Roger? And I know you're not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But what would be the process of going out and getting James Comey? I mean, and I shouldn't have even said it like that because the mainstream media will pick this up, or the lefts, and say going after. It's justice. Justice needs to be served. I'm not saying break the law. I'm not saying recreate the law. I'm saying follow the law. And James Comey, you broke the law, and you need to now pay the price. What is the process to go out and prosecute this criminal?
Well, first of all, we don't have a special counsel law. We don't have an independent counsel law. So appointing a special counsel is unconstitutional. Judge Keenan in Florida has ruled that way. The liberals disagree with that, but they're wrong. So I guess the way this would work is the jurisdiction, the U.S. attorney in the jurisdiction in which an individual who's committed crimes live, that evidence should be presented by the U.S. attorney to a grand jury and determine whether or not there was a crime. If there were a crime, they had to be charged. If there was no crime, they had to walk. If there was a crime, they're charged, they had to go to trial. I frankly think the court system in D.C., which is not provided for in the Constitution, should be closed down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a state, but that's where they commit most of their crimes. No Republican, no independent, no conservative, no Trump supporter can get a fair trial in District of Columbia. It's the most politicized judiciary in the country. And there's no provision in law for the system there. So I think we need judicial reform. All I want is justice. I'm not looking for revenge. If people did nothing wrong, well, that's what the grand jury will determine. That's what the jurors will determine. If people are charged, they have to have a fair trial without a rigged jury and a partisan, vicious, nasty, hateful judge. We're not going to find that in D.C., that's for sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The track that we went down, Roger, it's the reason I want justice for these people and you and all these other folks is because the path that we've went down, I think, if you don't hold these people accountable, is irreversible. I mean, I don't know how you could explain to our grandchildren, our children, what exactly went on, because it's unimaginable that a presidential candidate, a president in the United States of America, the things that were done to him were allowed to be done. You look at Venezuela, what they're doing now, arresting people who contested the election, Roger. Isn't that what we just saw happen in 2020 to Rudy Giuliani, to folks like you, to folks like Peter Navarro? Isn't that what we just, and this is Venezuela, Roger, a third world country that clearly has way bigger issues than we have in America right here. They're out there arresting their election officials. Who did they get that one from?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I had no involvement in the 2020 election because at that time, of course, I was under federal indictment, so I wasn't involved at all. But those who say, oh, well, You formed a slate of fake electors. Read
Right.
the Electoral College Act. There's no such thing as a fake elector.
Right.
In 1960, when it was thought on election night that Vice President Richard Nixon had carried Hawaii and his electors were named, John F. Kennedy didn't believe that, thought it was wrong, thought when the absentees were counted, he would be the winner. He formed an alternative elector slate.
Right.
When all the votes were counted, guess what? JFK was right, and his electors were seated. Nobody charged him with a crime. There's no such thing as a fake elector. This was made up by Andrew Weissman and Ari Melber and all these other demented criminals over at MSNBC.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, it's like I keep saying, it's unimaginable that this is what it's come to in this country. It's like a joke, but it's not a joke because all the people that have paid the price. Roger, before we wrap up, I want to conclude with something that's taken the media by storm, and it's the appointment of Matt Gaetz as Attorney General of the United States. Reports out this week, a hacker reportedly obtained the transcripts in damning testimony in that House ethics investigation into Matt Gaetz. I want to get your thoughts on it. The DOJ declined to prosecute Gaetz for the alleged acts of underage sex, yet the congressional report apparently tells us something far different. How do you think this all plays out for Matt Gaetz and President Trump's Attorney General pick?
Well, this is, without any question, the most partisan, vicious, and politicized Justice Department in American history.
Yeah.
If they couldn't find evidence of a crime by Matt Gaetz, which they were predisposed to do,
right?
They couldn't obviously even invent one, or they would have done so. Then they would have charged him. Congressional ethics investigation. Let's start with Nancy Pelosi. She's made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars insider trading. The day after Trump is president, she should be charged. But I guess under the rules of the House, she's allowed to do that. Well, they need to change the rules then. There's a real crime. Look, Matt Gaetz is a firebrand. There's no question about that. And he's very smart, and he's very tough, and he's very combative. That's why they're going to try to destroy him with a mountain of invective and smear. I think he's pretty fearless to go into this, having escaped their wrath once before. But he seems up to the task. We shall see. I wish him well. I hope he is confirmed. I hope the president gives him a recess point if he's not confirmed, so he can start pointing out the real criminals. Brennan, Comey, Jake Sullivan, Hillary Clinton. These people don't have immunity. There is no immunity for the charge of treason.
Yeah, my prediction is he does get that recess appointment because I don't see any possible way going off that list of senators. He can only afford to lose a few of them, and I can name 4 off the top of my head: Murkowski, Collins, Romney, Sullivan. There you go. I mean, there's 4 off the top who will never vote for Matt Gaetz. So I think it's going to come down to a recess appointment, which gives him some time in office, a few hundred days in office with the possibility of an extension. So they could keep him in there for quite some time under a recess appointment as an acting AG. And you know what? At the end of the day, if they get Matt Gaetz in there to get the ball rolling on everything that needs to be investigated, Matt is fearless. I mean, you can say what you want about the guy. The guy is absolutely fearless. And that's exactly what President Trump needs. He put in Jeff Sessions, that little weenie in there in the first place. And look at what we got. We got Robert Mueller. So I think with Matt Gaetz, you don't get any of that stuff. And you get some justice, Roger. Your concluding thoughts here, Roger, as we wrap up.
Look, America is about to enter a golden age of prosperity, peace, security, and justice. There's only one man who can do this. We're going to go through rocky periods because they're never going to stop attacking him. They're never going to stop trying to smear him. We still got this rogue judge in New York who's trying to throw him in jail. But God is good. I feel that the president's life was spared in Butler, Pennsylvania for a greater purpose. We now see what that greater purpose is. And we have to pray for America, pray for the safety of our president, because they've tried to kill him twice. I'm not sure what would stop them from trying again, other than providence, divine intervention. So, but I think it's a great time to be alive. And I think America is on the cusp of an incredible revival and a reawakening. So,
Yeah.
John, thanks for having me, and I'll see you again next week.
Hold on, before you go, for people who want to see you before next week, Roger, we'll be going to be doing the show from Asia next week. It'll be sort of interesting with the time zone change. Where can people watch you each and every night who can't wait to see the great Roger Stone?
They can go to rumble.com/Roger Stone, rumble.com/Roger Stone, or if it's easy to remember, just go to stonezone.com. and you can access the show there as well. And then on weekends, as you know, I now picked up the hour of the great Lou Dobbs, a great man who I miss incredibly. So he used to do the show before me at 77 WABC in New York. Now I've taken on that time slot. So from 3 to 6 every Sunday afternoon. I'm the hardest working man in show business, I can tell you that. That is at 77 WABC, or better, no matter where you live in the country, WABCradio.com. WABCradio.com. We're live streaming in 163 countries every Sunday afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
I will agree with you that now that Lou has passed on and is finally resting for probably the first time in his life, he can actually rest. He was the hardest working man I ever knew. I mean, taking on hours and hours of work a day, and you've now taken over that role. I've applied for that job with Lou's radio spot. It's at WABC Radio, but they said the dump button where they can censor out curse words didn't work fast enough to get there, so I didn't ultimately get the job. Roger, we'll see you back here next week, brother. Thanks so much.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks to Roger Stone, and thank you all, folks, for being with us today. Please be sure to join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Same time, same place, same agenda. Truth, justice, and the American way. Folks, be sure to join us and follow us on our new Instagram page at The Great America Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY and on Truth Social at John Fawcett. See you right back here tomorrow, folks. Till then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.